Sonic Superstars has been officially released and there is a lot to talk about. But do not worry, this is a spoiler-free review, meaning that you are safe to watch this video without getting spoiled on the story or any of the big surprises coming later on in the game. All I'm going to be talking about is my general thoughts on the game, whether or not you should buy it, and I might also talk about the level design and the gameplay loop, but nothing further than that. You are safe to watch this video, there is no spoilers. However, I will have my spoiler review, which includes my thoughts about the story and all kinds of other stuff coming out very soon. I decided to make this video because after I recorded my spoiler review, I realized it was just way too long to be able to finish before the game comes out, so I decided to make this so I can get my thoughts out there to you guys. Now, for clarification, this video is unscripted, so I might go on some ramblings. Just bear with me. Anyways, without further ado, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And now, let's begin the spoiler-free review. I guess a good place to start is me giving my personal thoughts on the game, and in my opinion, I think Sonic Superstars is a decent Sonic game. It's not perfect, it's not super fantastic, it's not gonna blow your socks off, but it's not insulting either. I will say that the game did not live up to my expectations, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I just went to the game expecting like Sonic Mania but in 2.5D graphics, and that's not what it is. In fact, for as familiar of a classic Sonic game that this is, it's also just as different. Like, sure, at first glance, it looks like a classic Sonic game where you go from beginning to end and you go through loops and all that stuff. But, I don't know, it's just a bit different from the typical classic Sonic adventure. For one, the level design is much more gimmicky than any of the classic games before it. It almost feels like classic Sonic's take on Donkey Kong Country in a way. You have these levels that are very gimmicky and sometimes very challenging, and we'll get to that later, but it just feels like a traditional platform more than a Sonic game. And I think that was something that kind of turned me off about the game because I kind of just want a classic Sonic game. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, I'm just surprised that they innovated on the classic formula this much. I will admit that there was a point when I played this game where I felt like it was just a massive disappointment. My first impression of this game was not that great. In fact, I almost canceled this video because I just didn't want to make another video where I hate on Sonic. But you know, after playing the game, I slept on it, and the next day I kind of came to the realization that this is a different type of Sonic game. This isn't the traditional classic Sonic adventure, and once I started going in with that perspective, I started to appreciate Sonic Superstars a lot more. And that's my advice to anyone who's not clicking well with this game. Don't play it as if you were playing Sonic 2 or Sonic Mania. Play it as if it's classic Sonic's take on Donkey Kong Country. That might help your experience a bit more. It personally helped my experience because I went in with completely different expectations. I was expecting to speed through this game and have the typical classic Sonic adventure, but that's not what this game is. They innovated big time, and there's a lot of new stuff that classic Sonic has never seen before. The only thing that was kind of awkward for me is that the boss fights were really long. Like, there are some bosses that are short and sweet and you can kill really fast, and then there's other bosses that are really long and last minutes at a time. I've noticed that there's levels in this game where the boss fights take up more than half of the playtime within the level, and that was very jarring to see, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm used to classic Sonic games where you get to the end of the level and then you just fight the boss fight and you go on your merry way. But then you have the boss fights in this game, and some of them just last really long and it's hard to get back into the game. There was one boss fight that took me like 3 to 4 minutes to beat, and it's like, why does it have to be that long, you know? Now, it's not too challenging. The boss fights aren't going to completely destroy you. The length was long. There was a lot of phases to these bosses, or a lot of scripted sequences, things that just draw them out. And I wasn't a big fan of it because I'm used to Sonic levels being where you get to the end, fight a quick boss, and it's over. But in Sonic Superstars, some of these bosses, you gotta take your time with them. And that was just really weird for me. I don't like playing classic Sonic games like that, but I guess it works. I will say though, for as long as these boss fights are, they are really good. Sonic Team is getting a lot better at putting challenge in a Sonic game that is actually fair and balanced. Like, some of these boss fights feel like actual boss fights, because in previous Sonic games, you know, a boss fight is homing attack or jump on, they're dead, you know? I never thought we'd see a boss fight in a Sonic game where it actually requires input to beat it. Now, with that said, not all boss fights are perfect. Some are a little bit buggy, some are a little BS, but for the most part, you know, this is a weird W. On one hand, I like the boss fights, but I just don't like how long they are, but I also like them, so, you know, I'll hand Sonic Team the W for it. And you know, since we're talking about boss fights, I guess this would be a good time to talk about the challenge in the game. Guys, I am not exaggerating when I say Sonic Superstars is officially the most challenging Sonic game ever made. This game starts off like really easy. Like at first I was like, wow, this is like baby mode. And then you get to the end and the challenge ramps up. The final boss was actually pretty difficult. I spent a pretty long time on it, which is kind of crazy because typically that doesn't happen with Sonic games. You just beat the boss and you're done, you know, but in this game you actually have to work for it. Now, I cannot stress this enough. There is a section in this game that skyrockets the difficulty. You're gonna be thinking, oh, this game's kind of easy. I mean, it has some challenging elements, but nothing crazy. But once you get to that section, you will know. All right, you'll know. So yeah, the game is pretty challenging. In my opinion, it is the hardest Sonic game I've ever played. I think you guys will know what I mean when you completely finish the game, but yeah, game is hard. So anybody who's been asking for a challenging Sonic game for years, here it is. This is your challenging Sonic game. And in all fairness, compared to Update 3, the challenge in this game is fair for the most part. Like, sure, there's some areas where it's like a little extreme and a little BS, but for the most part, it is fair. If you die, it is your fault. Now, I do want to say one last thing about difficulty. If you are scared of this game being too hard, I will say that in my personal opinion, I do feel like it is worth it. Like, sure, there are going to be parts in this game that is very frustrating, but from my personal experience, beating it feels very satisfying. Like, for example, there was a boss in this game that I spent 2 hours on. I was dying left and right. This boss was extremely difficult, but once I beat it, it felt so satisfying. I felt so rewarded for beating the boss, even though I spent like 2 hours on it, constantly dying. And you know, I won't lie, at first I was really upset with this game. I was like, man, this is difficult. I'm getting my ass kicked. I slept on it and I was like, yo, that was a good challenge, all right? I beat that boss after hours. I'm goated, man, all right? I had some fun. But with that said, I feel like overall, this was a decent Sonic game. It was pretty fun for the most part, but it does have some flaws. I feel like the level design could have been a bit better. They took out lives and elemental shields, so there's not really a good reason to explore these levels, aside from maybe if you're getting a giant ring for the Chaos Emeralds, but that's about it. If I had to describe the level design, it's like Sonic 1, but if it only had speed stages. There's no Marble Zone or Labyrinth Zone, it's just Green Hill and Starlight. Which, in fairness, is not bad. Like, that is good level design. It's just not perfect. Its level design could be a lot better. And I also feel like some of the gimmicks were hit or miss. Like, some would be really good and then some would be kind of mediocre. And overall, I feel like a lot of times the gimmicks in the levels just kind of broke up the pacing. And lastly, while the boss fights are fun and well made, I feel like they're a bit too long for a Sonic game. I personally prefer short and sweet bosses, but this game has some longer bosses and I just don't think it mixes well. So yeah, it is a good Sonic game. It just has some flaws that I'm not a big fan of. Now, you may be asking, where do I rank this game? How good is Sonic Superstars? Well, first of all, regardless of this ranking, this game is good, so I don't want my ranking to make people think that I dislike the game or something like that. But if you were to ask me where I'd rank in the classic Sonic games, I just don't see it being better than the originals. I do think Sonic Superstars is better than Sonic 1, and that's because it is far more consistent than Sonic 1. I would rather play Sonic Superstars than ever go through Marble Garden or Labyrinth Zone because I just don't like those levels. So yeah, I do think Sonic Superstars is better than the first Sonic the Hedgehog, but I can't go much further than that. I hold those games up on a very high pedestal because I absolutely love them. They're all great, alright? They're some of the best platformers I have ever played. Sonic Mania is probably the best 2D platformer I've ever played. I absolutely adore that game. I would honestly be surprised if Sonic Superstars could reach that bar. So the fact that it doesn't, I'm not going to hate the game for it. You can like a 7 out of 10 game or an 8 out of 10 game without bashing it or immensely praising it. You can just simply like a video game, and that's exactly what Sonic Superstars is. It's a good Sonic game. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing perfect. It's alright. It's a good first step towards the future. I feel like a sequel to Sonic Superstars could be absolutely amazing. And seriously, I hope Sonic Team and Arzest really cooks up something special next time. Because I see something special with Sonic Superstars. I feel like they just need to fix the flaws with this game, and it'll be a perfect video game. I think they can do it. I believe in them. Now, to the final segment of the video, should you buy it? Should you buy Sonic Superstars? Well, I don't know what to tell you. If you are a massive Sonic fan and you need your hands on this game immediately, then sure, go ahead, pay the $60. But if you're kinda on the fence and you don't want to pay $60 because it's a 2D platformer or it looks low budget, I understand. Personally speaking, it is a good video game, it is a good Sonic game, but it's not worth $60. For the amount of content you're getting and for the quality of the game, I just don't, it's just not worth it, you know? And this really sucks to say, but if I did not create content on this game, I probably would have not bought it. And that actually hurts to say, because I'm a huge Sonic fan, but it's $60, man, and that is a steep price tag, especially when Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2 are releasing this week. Like, personally, if I was not making content, I would not be purchasing this game. That's just my personal advice. It is not worth $60. I do think that $40 would have been a perfect price tag for this game, but for some reason they went for the $60 price tag, and I just can't recommend this game at $60. If you are on the fence and you're unsure if you're gonna like this game, then I would just recommend waiting for it to go on sale. And after all, this is a Sonic game. Eventually it's gonna go on sale, probably in a week or two from now. Like I guarantee you, in a matter of like 3 weeks, this game is gonna be like $30, so just wait for the sale. Anyways, that's all I have to say for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. My spoiler review should be coming out in the coming days. I am working hard. I am pulling all-nighters to get that review done. I'm gonna get it done, alright? If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Anyways, I love you guys. I'll see you very soon. Peace out. My chill members are Snack Pigeon, Neil, Scully, AHS, Francis T218, Sonicman 715, 3Monic, Archer XYZ, Pie Studios, Bananas, Junion Rings, Chip Chap Chop, The Squeaker Nerd, Super Shax, Boom, Super Saiyan Sonic. Thank you all for supporting my channel. Make sure to click one of the end card screen videos here. Love you guys. Peace out.